have we talked about how if you were to believe an average episode of Sons of Anarchy, murder is mad easy to get away with?
Yeah, right.
There are no such things as forensics. I'm not even sure there are homicide detectives.
Not there. Nope.
Apparently, Charming has like Unsler and one deputy, and they're just interested in no drug dealing. People get like murdered and buried somewhere in the woods or in the desert. They don't care, and they don't check.
Cops? Yes. Oh boy. Oh boy. Meanwhile, Jax stays by Opie's hospital bed, haunted by what almost happened, but there's no time to recover. He returns to the clubhouse only to find Clay waiting, seething. The final reckoning comes fast and hard. The club got hit while Jax was supposed to be on watch. Yeah, he went out to party. Turns out the warehouse also had a stash there, and because Jax wasn't there, it got hit. He partied while Sam Crow was blindsided, and Clay, already furious with Jax's recklessness, has had enough. He strips Jax of his cut, which I did not realize was spelled Kutte.
Yeah,
I always thought it was like a cut of leather or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Because again, it's a leather vest, so I thought it was a cut out of a leather jacket.
Yeah, strange. He strips Jax of his cut, exiling him from the club. One moment, Jax is a son of anarchy. The next, he's nobody. As the clubhouse door slams shut, Jax is left standing alone, fists clenched, the weight of his mistakes crashing down. His place in Sam Crow is gone, and the outlaw road ahead has never felt more uncertain. There you go. That's issues 1 through 4, our first volume of Sons of Anarchy Redwood original. Mark Radulich, I mean, you got some notes there?
Opie doesn't look like Opie.
He's all got his hair all slicked back. He's got a haircut. No beard.
Can we actually talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
How, knowing what we know was going to happen to Opie, how sad and tragic this book actually is.
Yeah, dude. I think I sent
this
you
was
a
a kid
message.
with a future. Like, you think about Opie and Jax, right? So all Jax wants to do is be a badass biker, and it'll be the death of him. We know that, but it's a life he embraced. It's a life he lusted for. You know, his whole disagreement with Clay is essentially Lucy and Ricky. You know, he wants to go to the club, and Ricky keeps telling him, you know, you have to stay home, Lucy. And he's like, "Oh, Ricky, take me to the club, Ricky."
Yep.
Ugh. And he's like, the sooner I go, the better. I want, you know, like, his whole identity is wrapped up in being a badass biker, and it's really funny because, like, he's such an obnoxious prick about it. Like, when we see him in season 1 of Sons of Anarchy, he's already kind of had some of the piss and vinegar knocked out of him.
Right.
And by the end of season 1, he is starting to become very disillusioned with the club. It's the basis for the entire series from that point on. You know, season 1, as you'll recall, is sort of the falling from grace in the eyes of Jax for Clay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the rest of the series becomes Jax trying to take the club from Clay and change it into something sustainable and manageable, and it becomes the death of him. But early on in Jax's life, as we see in this comic, he idolized Clay, he idolized this club, and he was an obnoxious prick about it. You know, there was a lot of ego involved here. Hubris is the word I'm looking for. There's a lot of hubris. And Clay kind of has to begin to knock that out of him. He's like, you know, like, we're not gods. We fuck up, and we have to, you know, think on the fly. And that's exactly what actually happens in this book. Is they get paid in drugs that were stolen from another group. And now they've made enemies that they didn't count on, and now they have to adjust, they have to adapt. Then you have, and I started with this with poor Opie. Yeah. Opie was like, I just want to go to college.
Dude's in college. He is in class.
Yeah.
And Jax is knocking on the outside door saying, "Come on, man. Let's go. Let's ditch this let's head."
And it's like his father wanted him to do it. Like, you know,
Clay, right?
Yeah, Clay is actively pushing Jax. Gemma is pushing Jax. You know, this is the family business. This is what we do. Like, if had Jax been like, I don't want to be a biker, they'd have been disappointed in him. They'd have shamed him.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, there's Piney going, I don't want this for my son. I did this for myself, but this is not. But like all good fathers, we want better lives for our children.
Right.
And our children are impossible.
And they can be.
And so because he can't say no to Jax. Opie is in love with Jax, and he so wants Jax's approval, and he can't say no to him for whatever the reasons are. And Jax is the devil. He's just everything bad that happens to Opie happens because he followed Jax, or he let Jax convince him to go to Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
As it were. So the book for me struck tragically because I'm realizing how much better off Opie had been had he told Jax to go fuck himself.
Yeah. I sent you a message and I said, poor Opie.
Yeah.
Because we watched what happened to him in the series, and this is just more of that pretty much, because he's even in a better situation here.
Yeah.
And, you could just see he's being taken off of that
nothing
path.
But potential ahead of him.
Right. One thing that just occurred to me while we were talking about this, one thing that you could definitely say about the Sons of Anarchy TV series and the comic book series we're reading right now, the one we already did read, Sons of Anarchy is about consequences.
Yeah.
Because of actions that you have taken, because of decisions that you have made. And there's actually in this one right here, there's going to be a couple that we talk about. In this first 4, we have an interaction between Jax and Jonesy. So Jonesy, who I don't think, as far as I know, ever showed up in the series. So this is a new character that's just really kind of, he's nobody important here in these first 4 issues, but he's just a friend of Opie and Jax's.
Yeah.
And Jax is, he's so nervous about being part of the club. And then he ends up saying some stuff, and Jonesy's like, do you guys actually kill people? And then Jax is this impulsive idiot and is just grabs a gun.
He's a kid. He has the emotional maturity of a 10-year-old.
Right. And then he almost is going to kill this guy, and he decides not to. And of course, he's like, I couldn't do it. And you're almost like, I don't know. I'm kind of glad you couldn't, dude, for sure.
Right.
But I don't feel sympathy for you because you couldn't. So, I mean, I guess it's just to kind of show you that he has a heart and that he wouldn't do it. But I hate the fact that he almost did. So, I didn't feel for Jax in that moment. I felt for Jonesy. Jonesy's the guy I was like, geez, he cried.
Can I tell you how this book does not help me sympathize with Jackson?
Right, dude. It doesn't.
If I don't know what the intention of the authors were, but by the end of this, I'm like, I'm still only rooting for Opie, and he doesn't got this, Jesse. He says he's got this, but at the end of the day, he never had it.
He does not. I mean, we've touched on just about everything that I like how Piney and Clay are still kind of, this might be the start of it. I don't know, but Piney
Can we talk about how if we ever get our drug organization going, our criminal organization, Jesse, when the offer to pay us in heroin comes up, and it inevitably will, because it comes up in The Wire, it came up here. It feels like, you make a deal with a ne'er-do-well criminal enterprise, and it's like, okay, for services or products, you will pay us money. And like a farmer, like a sheep farmer, they're just like, what about bartering? Huh? I know I agreed to pay you in American dollars backed by gold, but hear me out. What if we bartered?
What if we bartered with, bloody bags of drugs? What do you think?
Yeah. How about cases of heroin and cocaine? It's like, this never ends well. Jesse, I'm going to tell you right now, as you being my lieutenant of this organization, don't take the drugs. We work in cash only. We are not farmers. This is not a barter system. Their
big thing, just like you said, not only is the police wanting drugs out of Charming, that we remember that, this gang, the Sons of Anarchy, do not want drugs in Charming. And here they are buying the drugs, which I guess in some... I get a good aspect. They have control over it, and they can maybe take care of it and get it out of there. But
that's a great word you're using, control. Clay always thinks he's got control of things. He always thinks he's smarter than he really is. First of all, his head is shaped like his brain, which is a brick. It's just a large brick. And he always thinks he has more control over things. And if you notice, the pattern with him is he overreaches, and then he ends up creating a mess that then they have to dig out of. And like Bobby and Chibs are like nagging wives every time. They're like, Yogi, I don't think it's going to work out with the drugs.
Right.
And he's like, no, it's fine. I'm smarter than the average bear. And they're like, but you're not. And this happens every time.
You're playing with fire, bro. You're playing with fire.
Can you name a single plot that worked out where Clay overreached and put the gang in a situation they just wanted to sell guns.
Right.
For money. Not for sheep, not for coke, not for more guns. They wanted cash, cold hard cash for the guns they got from the Irish. And Clay's like, but what about drugs?
Well, what about let's change it up a little bit.
Right.
It won't hurt anything.
But I won't let him into charming, and we'll let Deputy Dog over here make sure that doesn't happen. And it's like, you can't control. This is my point. You can't control the uncontrollable, and criminal enterprises are inherently uncontrollable. It's not like if you've watched enough mob movies, the shift between like the 50s, 60s era mobsters and like the later 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the thing that they'll talk about, even if you go back earlier than that, like 20s and 30s, here, better example of this. Did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
No, I know of it, but I have not watched it. Tell me about it.
By the end of Boardwalk Empire takes place in the era of Prohibition. And by the end of it, they are lamenting the loss of code. Like
like honor?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Like there were gentlemen's agreements between like Chalky White and Steve Buscemi's character and like the Jew gangster character, and like they'd all kind of operated within a certain code. It's like, hey, if we all follow these rules and stay in each other's territories and work the way that we've all agreed to, a rising tide lifts all ships. We're all going to make money. By the end of it,
McMahon shows up.
Yeah, essentially. By the end of Boardwalk Empire, the youth have taken over, and it's just all out war.
Oh,
and they God. And those who are left, the old heads who are left standing, lament the days of yore.
Old. Yep.
The days of yore when men had a code. Man, always have a code, Jesse.
Always. And
no one's following it anymore. And that's the thing. Is I was actually thinking about also the bike riders. And they talk about the biker gang having a code that they went by, and by the end of it, the guys coming up were so hungry for power and were so less honorable than the men before them that the whole thing just falls apart, and it becomes more violent as time goes on. And that just seems to be the lesson in all of this, is that Clay never learns, and his ultimate demise, if you go back to the show, is no matter how many times he thinks he can outsmart various criminal enterprises and come out ahead, it only ends with him hurting everyone around him and making the club far worse off than it was. And like Bobby and Chibs know that, and there's nothing they can do to stop him.
Right.
I mean, Tig will do whatever Clay says.
Yep. He's loyal.
And everything I'm talking about is in these books, because the entire time this is happening, Chibs and Bobby are like, please don't do this. What part of Guns for Money are you not getting?
Right.
And Clay's like, shut up. You're all pansy, liberal, tree-hugging pantywaist, and I'm smaller than everybody, and my head's shaped like a wall, And even Gemma's just like, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, shut up, whore. What the fuck's wrong with you? But this is exactly what JT didn't want to see happen.
Yeah.
It's what got him killed in the first place.
Right. Yeah. That's a story that's got to be told soon.
I wish it had been told in this one. Redwood original, JT.
All right. All right. My other couple notes here. I wanted to point out the one part where Tig is sitting on the couch with a bag of ice on his crotch, and he goes, there's no explanation needed. Like Clay looks at him, and Tig doesn't want to talk about it. It's not explored in any in the book, but it's a great bit. It's Tig for sure. I mentioned Uzi and Adam. Adam was the other guy that got his knees taken, busted by the bat.
For selling bad X, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they're not very prominent here in these first four, but people be ready because you're going to hear their names again.
Yes,
At least Uzi's for sure. And I mean, I liked our antagonist here. I thought he brought a nice little air of mystery and intrigue. This guy, African American with the upside down cross on his jacket. We get no name for him, and he's going to show up again in these next few.
Mirror Universe Punisher.
Yeah, this guy's he's killing drug dealers, trying to get this trying to get these drugs back. What we find out, and I'll just go ahead and put it here because I'll mention it later. I believe he's just a contract. I don't want to say hitman, but he's more like a contract guy. It's somebody that they can get to go get.
He's a fixer.
There you go.
He's a fixer. His job is to go get shit done.
Right. Then we got Gemma and her side quest, which I think I didn't bring up here, but she's trying to make sure the books are right, I believe,
there's an accounting error, and they're being overcharged for parts. And the explanation she gets is, yeah, sometimes we charge you for parts, and if we don't deliver them, we'll just get them to you the next one, but we don't charge you for those, except that they are charging her for them. Basically, he doesn't think anyone's going to look, and even if they do look, fuck you. Mm-hmm. But, take your business elsewhere then. Who gives a shit? He doesn't realize he's talking to the mob. Yeah. And so Gemma steals the dog and, invents a fake gang to say, the gang stole your dog, pay us, and you get your dog back. Brilliant. And he learns his lesson. He does.
That's all my notes for this first volume, 1 through 4. Mark, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we get into the next one?
I think you and everybody else can agree that I have talked plenty.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, real quick before I forget, the creative team, I know I mentioned a little the artist and writer at the beginning, but I want to give props to the colorist. So our script by Ollie Masters. He's going to be the guy that writes all 12 issues. Art in these first 4 are by Luca Pizzari, and then colors by Adam Metcalf, letters by Ed Dukeshire. Mark, you've read all 12 issues, all right? Mm-hmm. As far as the art goes in this first 4, did you have any complaints? Because we know that the art's going to change.
So I don't love the way Clay looks. I think the second artist got Clay closer to what's the actor's name?
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman actually looks like. The reverse of that is Gemma looks better in the first part of this, and in the second part, her face is a little too angular.
Okay.
But my other thing is Opie and Jax in the early part of the book look too similar. I was getting them confused.
Yeah. Yeah, Opie looking so different, just like you said, man.
Yeah.
With the shaved, he's got slick back hair, shaved sides, no beard.
He had light in his eyes in the future. He had hope.
Right. And then, the influence that Jax has over him, and dude almost dies.
I know we're comparing apples to oranges. We're comparing a comic book drawing to an actual actor in a show, but you look at here, and he's just got an aura of hope. And then when you look at him in that last season, when he says, "I got this," right before being beat to death in the jail.
Yeah.
And there is no hope in those eyes.
Nope.
He is a walking
dude.
corpse.
He lost so much, and we were talking about, he was Death Wish Opie. He wanted at some point. He didn't care.
He was dead long before the prison beating.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking back on it, the more we talked about that show, and the more we continue to revisit this particular intellectual property, the more I think Opie died in the car with Donna.
Fair assessment.